Hi there, I'm Talia, and I'm going to be talking to you about conversion optimization. We're going to look at how emotion and psychology and persuasion can really help you 10 times your conversions with your product, your landing pages, your website, and everything that you do towards your ROI. So let's just get started. Okay. One of the most important things we're going to talk about today is why people buy products and services. The reason this is so important is because I have seen time and time again for years that people make a very big mistake assuming that people buy their product or their service for the wrong reason. What I mean by that is I usually ask my students or my clients, why do people buy from you? And normally the first answer that I get is something to do with their features, their pricing, their product itself, how good it is, or how long they've been going, the different awards that they've won, everything to do with their specific product. However, I strongly believe, and I've seen this multiple times, and I think if this was the real reason that people bought products and services, the biggest brands in the world would probably create landing pages like this, right? Coca-Cola would talk about the fact that they're the #1 soft drink in the world since 1886. They talk about the amount of calories that they have or how much they cost. But this isn't how Coca-Cola advertises itself, is it? This is just a made-up landing page that we've created. So why do 99% of landing pages look like this? The #1 video conferencing and web conferencing service about a product, an image that talks about the fact that places them #1 in their criteria. Other landing pages talking about the fact that they are the better way to sell software. They talk about the different features. You can unify, you can grow, you can optimize. Or companies that talk specifically about the fact that they are the best product, that they've won all sorts of awards. But there's nothing here about the customer. There's nothing here that is really the reason for why people buy from you. And the reason this happens is because almost every landing I see out there, and I've seen thousands, focus on the product that they're selling, their features, and their pricing. Because somehow we've all been taught and we've convinced ourselves that before someone buys any product or makes any decision about a service, we go through this elaborate process of rationally thinking and considering the pros versus the cons, coming to a rational decision and making the best decision that we can. When in fact, scientists have proven over and over again that people do not make decisions this way. This is not how people buy. This is. Everything we buy in life has an emotional reason to it. We buy on emotion and then we rationalize that decision. For example, we'll go into a store, we'll see a very expensive t-shirt or a top, and we'll convince ourselves that it makes complete sense to buy it, when in fact we're buying it because we feel good about the way we look at it, or we want to impress someone before going on a date. But later on, after we purchase it, we'll come up with many logical reasons to why we bought it. Maybe because it was on sale, maybe you have 3 different events coming up that you could wear it for. However, whatever it turns out, you're going to have a very logical way to explain it. You see, our brain acts quickly and intuitively. We make decisions on emotion, and then we justify them with logic. And I'd like to tell you a bit about to kind of feature this in terms of science. So a famous study conducted by Antonio Damasio showed scientific proof that emotions impact our brain and have direct impact on every decision we make. And I'm not just talking about t-shirts and B2C. I'm talking B2B heavy products. He studied people who were suffering from brain damage, that essentially the brain damage that they had prevented them from feeling any emotion. Now, most of their behavior was pretty normal, almost exactly the way it was before, but they all had one very big issue. They were unable to make decisions. Even the most trivial ones, like what they'd have for lunch, chicken or turkey. The subjects knew exactly what they had to do, but they couldn't make up their minds. Emotion plays a key role in our decision-making process. And in order to grow your business and increase your sales, you have to understand this scientific fact and you have to optimize it for it. Let me just show you another quick example. So back in 2008, scientists used an fMRI machine to conduct a study. Essentially, they asked people to stare at a screen that had many letters on it, just like this one. And when they felt like it, at any time, to just press a button on the right or on the left of them. That's all they had to do. Now, while what was really interesting here was the fact that scientists knew exactly what button these people were going to press 10 seconds before they pressed the button. You see, while we're considering and thinking, and you think our brain, is making this logical decision, our brain has actually made that decision for us. So while we think that people sit in front of their computer or their phone thinking if they should buy something or not, they've already made that decision to buy Nike's limited edition Back to the Future self-tying shoes. Because whether if we want to feel loved or part of a community or successful, or perhaps we want other people to think we're successful, no matter what you're selling, what people really care about isn't the what, it's the why. And that's why Coca-Cola landing pages don't look like the one I showed you before. They look like this: open happiness. One thing is for sure, and I've done this countless times in the past decade, is that once you identify the emotions that move your customers or clients the most, it's easier to choose the right colors, the right copy, the right images, the right structure for every page you create or email that you write. And it always leads to so much more revenue and ROI. Now, the process of identifying emotions isn't based on a hunch or Googling. We're not just kind of making up the emotions that we're going to use in our page. We need to really understand, where are these emotions coming from? What is the true intent of someone who comes to our website? What are the emotions that are motivating them to make such a purchase or a decision? So these emotions are chosen carefully after you complete all sorts of research. So for example, we run an analysis on current behavior on the website. What are people doing? How are they behaving? Where are they clicking? Where are they dropping? Then we do research. We research the emotions that impact our customers the most. We look at the different psychological triggers, cognitive biases, the different real intent, hesitation, concerns that people have. Then we create a strategy and messaging according to everything that we've found in our research. And then we test everything to see if it increases conversions. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But the result is that we always learn more about our customers. So one thing to remember is that it's never just one emotion that drives our decisions. It's always a couple of emotions that work together, which is why we'll be using emotion either together or on various parts of a page. So for example, if you have one emotional trigger, it might be highlighted in our headline and our call to action button. Another emotion might be highlighted in our bullet points or in our about section or in your testimonials. So I want to show you an example, and what we're going to do today is I'm going to walk you through a workshop, a framework that I use to induce and project emotion into everything we do with our website. So how do you show emotions on a page? So essentially, over the years, I've identified over 223 emotional triggers that can impact our decision-making. So there's so many of them, and that's why we always use a couple of them on our pages. But today we're going to focus on two main emotions that work together, and we'll see how you can use these emotions to optimize your landing pages, your websites, or your emails. We'll talk about headlines, call to action buttons, your bullet points, and even your testimonials. So the first emotional trigger we're going to talk about is social image. It's based on how I want people to perceive me. So as social creatures, most of us care what other people think about us. Many people want to feel appreciated, admired, envied, or even looked up to. As a result, many of our purchasing decisions are influenced by what people think about us. So for example, a parent may purchase additional games, costumes, or presents for their child's birthday party, so other parents will see how good of a parent they are. An employee may purchase software that will help them create beautiful reports and presentations so they can stand out in the crowd and be appreciated. Now, you know what? And someone actually might purchase an expensive car just to stand out and feel a little envied. So this doesn't mean that every single person in the world is influenced by their social image, but even brands selling services have to consider this emotional trigger, because due to, if you think about it, if you are offering a service, then due to the outcome for your client, for example, if a CMO might hire a PPC manager or PPC agency that will make them look good to their client or to their managers. So I found that social image is a very strong emotional trigger. And if you use it correctly on a page, it can do wonders to form a deeper connection with your customers or your clients, and of course, increase revenue. Now that's the first emotional trigger. The second emotional trigger that goes hand in hand with social image is self-image. So this is how I feel about myself. It definitely dictates many of our buying decisions. People buy gym memberships to feel good about themselves, to feel like they're taking an action, even if they're never actually going to go. We buy books we're never going to read to feel smarter and look good when people come over to our office or to our house. We hire business coaches to help push us to the next level, or you purchase clothes, but whatever it is, it's all about increasing our self-esteem to feel better about ourselves. So self-image and social image go hand in hand. And today, I'd like to show you how to use these specific two emotional triggers on your different pages. So I'm going to walk you through a few templates, and we're going to write a few headlines, calls to action, and bullet points highlighting these specific emotions. So let's start with headline formulas. So first we'll start with writing our landing page as a headline. Now this is the main message of the page, and it's usually the first thing people see and read. Now the one thing that I love about writing copy is that you don't need to invent the wheel. You don't need to sit there hoping that the words are going to come to you, which is what most people do when they start writing copy or messaging for their page. There are countless of writing formulas to help you write. And instead of sitting around hoping that the words will just fall on you, you can simply use one of the already proven and tested formulas. Now, there are dozens of headline formulas you can use, but today I want to share two of my go-to formulas. I use all the time, and I'd like to show you how I use them with social image and self-image. So formula number one is for self-image. Have a or become a desirable thing you can be proud of. Let me show you an example. Now again, this is self-image, so it's something about you. So the gym, finally have the body you can be proud of. If you're an online parenting program, become the parent you've always wanted to be, one you can be proud of. Or if you're selling an email software, write and send emails that make you money and proud. Notice how important it is to focus on the emotional value of it. It's you being proud of something that you have created. Become someone you've always wanted to be and be proud of it. Finally have that body you can be proud of. Write emails that make you proud, because that is where self-image comes in. On the other hand, you could use social image, and this is our second formula. The only solution made exclusively to most desirable social image outcome. So here's a few examples. For presentation software, you'd say the only presentation software that will make you look like a pro designer. Now, when you think about this, it's really cool, because most people who use products for creating presentations online aren't designers. We're regular marketers who are creating reports for their clients or for their managers. So here, the social image comes into play, because what we're talking about is not creating beautiful reports. We're creating about something that will make them look like a pro designer. If you sell VA services, then the only virtual assistant service that will make people ask, How does she get all that done? So again, this is about how people will perceive you. The first one is how you will look like to other people. The second one is how people will be admiring the amount of work you get done just by using this service. And if you're an online course for marketers, then the only program to help you become the badass marketer you've always wanted to be. This is actually kind of interesting because this is social image and self-image. But again, focusing on how other people will perceive you. So these are my go-to formulas, and I really do encourage you to use them when you are writing your headlines and creating your landing page. Because really, when you think about it, or any page actually for your website, your emails, at the end of the day, these are very powerful emotional triggers, and they're really good to test. Let's move on to call to action buttons. Now, call to action button is an extremely important element on any page. So before we dive into any, emotional triggers, I want to remind you of a few rules. So one is that every call to action button should only have one goal. Only one. You should only ask for one thing. Number two, it should be very, very clear. So all sorts of buttons that say continue, next are very problematic because they need to be very clear. People should be able to look at your button and know instantly what will happen when they click on it. Number three, length doesn't matter. So copy, the amount of copy that you use on your call to action button doesn't matter. What matters is the value. So I know we're constantly told to reduce the amount of copy that we use, but I'm here to tell you that it's okay to have long copy on your pages and in your call to action button. It's okay to have an entire sentence on your call to action. If it has value, it will work. So for the call to action part, I'm going to introduce you to one formula that I use the most. Similar to headlines, there are so many CTA formulas too, but this one is the most direct and easy one. So it's, I'd like to, what is a specific action they're going to take because I want to, why. So we talk about the action they're going to take and the value they're going to perceive. Let me show you an example. I'd like to enroll now because I want to see jaw-dropping results in days. That's a great typo. So what you would see is enroll now, and underneath the CTA, you would see jaw-dropping results in days. Now, you're writing it in their name. So it's not you will enroll now, but it's I'd like to enroll now and see jaw-dropping results in days. Another example, I'd like to donate now and impact thousands of lives in one click. Donate now, impact thousands of lives in one click. The whole idea here is that you are supporting your call to action button with a mini headline, a subtitle. Now, look at this. This is self-image because I will affect thousands of lives, not to mention what people will think of me. So this is social image when I've donated. So there's a lot of different emotional triggers that are working in here, but it's really interesting to see how you can even insert emotion into your call to action buttons. Let's talk about bullet points. Now, bullet points are usually a long list of points that companies, products, use to describe themselves, right? So common information you'll see on a bullet point is information about the product or the service itself. For example, we have X amount of templates, or you get lifetime access, or 50% off, or basically the different features that you have. So here's another example. Bullet points talking about the meetings, video webinars, Zoom rooms, business IM, letters, connector, and developer platform. So Zoom's bullet points list, basically they list the features of their product. You can conduct meetings, videos, something to do with SIP connector. And the thing is that brands forget that people don't buy or sign up for the features. What they sign up is for the value, for the emotional gain, the pain it solves in their life. So your bullet points are actually a fantastic opportunity to not just to write down a grocery list of what you have in stock, but to explain the value of that item. So for example, if you're an online parenting course and your benefit is word by word scripts for handling talkback, the emotional value of that is confidently and calmly handle any crisis, no matter what life throws at you. If you're a landing page software, your feature is the fact that you can build faster landing pages. But the value is that you won't have to rely on developers, because that is the real pain that they're feeling. If you're an online marketing course, then your feature or the benefit is that you will master the newest strategies. But the value of it is that you will gain your CEO's trust and confidence. So notice that what normally you would see on a page, on a website, is just the exact description of the feature that people get. But what you really want to focus on is the value. Your bullet points are meant to strengthen the emotional value of your sales. So remove the burden of decision so that your prospect can immediately see the value in what you're offering on an emotional level. So this is what it would look like on a page as an example. So online, let's talk about an online parenting course. Word by word script, so you can confidently and calmly handle any crisis no matter what life throws at you. 49 on-demand video lessons, that's the benefit, the feature, to make you feel more confident, joyful, and successful as a parent. The no yelling formula to get your kids to listen at home and in public. Notice how in public is a social image trigger. So we mention the benefit and we elaborate with the value. So for example, we'd have become the parent you've always wanted to be, a parent you can be proud of. So this is your self-image, where we're using self-image in the headline. Then when we talk about what you're going to get when you enroll to this parenting course, we have those bullet points we just discussed. We have the call to action with that funny spelling mistake where it should say jaw-dropping results. And we have testimonials. Now, what's really interesting in testimonials is that for each page, you add one testimonial that highlights, well, basically what I did here is I highlighted self-image and social image. So one thing, hold on. So the first one is self-image, and that is feeling good about yourselves. The other shows you what other people will think about you. Notice that these testimonials aren't just self-praise, which is what normally people do. So when you think about testimonials on your product pages or on your homepage, most companies just put in random sentences by clients just saying how amazing the product is or how great the company is. But testimonials aren't meant to do that. They're actually meant to address specific roadblocks. So if you know that your customer is really, or your client or prospect is really worried about a certain problem or certain aspect of your product, you can use testimonials to tackle that. So you'll see on the left-hand side, a spontaneous I love you on the drive home. My little boy said to me on our hour-long ride home, Mama, I love you so very much. So this is self-image. This is catering to making people feel good about themselves. Social image, so effective. My kids' teachers are asking about it. So notice how this is another way of persuading people that not only will your kids change and you will feel the difference, but everyone around you will too. So now the question is, if we look at our website, if we look at our page that we are optimizing, do you think we have enough emotion in here? That's the question you always want to ask yourself. Now you'll notice that under the call to action button, I also have trust symbols. So we have different logos of companies. It's a great way to just add an extra layer of trust. So everything on this page is directed to making you feel a certain way about taking an online parenting course. Now, when you are either critiquing a new landing page, or if you go now to your website and you want to see, am I using enough emotion? Is there any emotion on my website? There are two questions that you can ask yourself. Number one, are you making it about the customer? So it's important to remember that you are not the hero of the story, the customer is. So it's about them. When you look at the page, are you focused on your customer's value or the benefits and the features of the solution? Are you using the right words to bring out the emotions that you want to create on your page? Now, again, I introduced you to two, but there's so many different emotions that people might feel. So, for example, how do you use the right words to bring out emotions? So maybe you'd want to swap out us and ours and your brand name with you, I, or me. So instead of talking about yourself, you'd be talking to them in first person. Am I using testimonials that address the emotional needs of your prospects? So are your testimonials and your social proof, are they addressing specific roadblocks, concerns, and hesitations of customers versus self-praise? Now, remember that you want to make sure that your copy triggers these specific emotions. So ask yourself, what roadblocks are you addressing? Can this testimonial be edited or optimized to enhance certain emotions and address those people's concerns? Remember that, I think Andy Crestodina said it the best way. When you say, whatever you say about yourself is marketing. When someone else says it, it's social proof. So when you identify the biggest roadblocks and hesitations and concerns people have before signing up to your product, you can use testimonials and social proof to address that. And it's not just you saying, hey, we're trustworthy, but it's someone else saying it, and it means a lot more. So the question number one was, are you making it about the customer? Question number two is, can people consistently feel the emotion? So copy doesn't work on its own, it's part of a bigger picture. And today we've mostly spoken about copy and not design. So it can't go without colors and visuals and different elements on the page. Every element on the page should support your emotional triggers and strategy. Let me show you what I mean. Skype decided to go for the bandwagon effect. Hey, everybody's using our tool, millions trust us, and if you want to be like everyone else and make sure you're using the best, you need to choose what everyone else has chosen to use, right? So they're saying join millions talking on Skype. That's kind of their strategy. So, but then when you look at the page itself, everything else is missing. So the copy itself says, as we continue improving the accessibility of Skype, we currently recommend voiceover, blah, 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 blah. It's, the headline's great, but where's the proof? Where's the continuation of the fact that millions of people are using Skype? What they've done is just basically put in text on the page. And when you look at the visual, then again, the images of their product, multiple screens. I love this. Most companies do this. Most B2B companies do this, is they don't know what image to use. So you just take a few screens, tablet, desktop, mobile, and put your screenshot of the product in them. It's nice, but that's not actually how conversion works. Because remember that what we really want to convince people is of the value. People can't see value when they're looking at these kind of screenshots. Everyone knows what Skype looks like, or any other communicational platform. I'm not saying you don't need to use screenshots of your product, but not as the homepage hero or your landing page hero. That can come further down the page. What you need to use here is a strategic image that amplifies those emotions. So for example, in Skype's case, perhaps showing a map of the world and showing how many people are actually connecting at the same time, or just showing the impact that Skype has on millions of people, as they claim. So a cool thing to do is, just before you're sending a brief to your designer, make sure they get all the information they need on the messaging and strategy that you want to test. So for example, you would want to make sure that all the images support the emotional strategy. You want to make sure that people can feel the emotion on mobile too, because there's so many problems that can come up. Images could look stretched. Copy could be too long and take up all the space on the page. And you need to remember that on mobile, our intent and needs are very different. You may need to create a different version for mobile completely. Are your colors, you want to make sure that the colors and the call to action buttons on your page support those emotional triggers, and does it pass the 5-second test? So there's many tools out there that will help you just test your page for 5 seconds and see how people feel about it. So I guess to summarize, what I really want to say here is that the most important thing you should be asking yourself every single day is not what is your goal as a business, but what is your customer's goal? What is your user's goal? And remember that only when your customers achieve their goals will you actually achieve your own. And that is essentially the basic of everything. When you use emotion, you can increase conversions 10 times and 20 times more. And I've seen it done thousands of times. I've A/B tested, I've run hundreds and thousands of A/B tests using emotional triggers for my clients, and I have doubled and tripled their revenue just by getting to know the customers better and understanding what they actually need and what value they're looking for. So thanks for listening. You can grab all of my free optimization resources right here. We have a complete list of 100 cognitive biases and psychological triggers you can download and how to use them, many different frameworks and templates that you can use to increase conversions. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. I'm always happy to answer.